Okay, hello everybody. I'm Toe Grinder. I'm a Mage guide writer, theory crafting contributor, expert in the Mage Discord. I'm the Guildmaster of Mist on Taran Mill EU, where I've been getting Hall of Fame and Mythic Plus rank 1s across multiple specs basically since those achievements came out. This is going to be my Season 2 guide for Arcane. This guide is going to be focused on 10.1, and that does include the Season 2 tier bonuses. If you want to know how to play Arcane before the tier bonuses, check out my Season 1 guide that's on my channel. And as always, Mage Hub is up to date, and always check the written guides for the most up to date information. Starting off with raid talents, I think that this is the standard raid build. There are a few things you can change based on the situation. If you're constantly cleaving 2 to 3 targets, you can take the points out of Savant, Enlightened, and Gem and go down the Harmony route. This also makes your Execute and your Funnel better. If you're in a pure single target scenario, you can take this 1 point out of Arcane Cleave and put it in improved Arcane Missiles. And in the class tree, if you ever find you need any of the random bits of utility, there are a lot of talents that you can drop. In dungeons, the main thing that changes in the spec tree is you're going to drop this 1 point in impetus for 2 charges of Arcane Orb, and in the class tree, you want to make sure that you pick up all the random bits of utility that are good in Mythic Plus. The only real choice is Shimmer versus Ice Flows. I think that Ice Flows is more powerful in a vacuum, but I think that Shimmer diversifies the movement that you can deal with a little bit better. Choice is up to you. At a very high level, as an Arcane Mage, you always want to cast Touch of the Magi and Arcane Surge on cooldown. Arcane Surge has twice the cooldown of Touch of the Magi, so you'll cast it with Evocation every second Touch of the Magi. For the duration of this guide, I'll refer to Touch of the Magi casts with Arcane Surge as the Arcane Surge burn or the big burn, and casts with just Touch of the Magi on its own will be referred to as the mini burn. You can see you'll go through sort of cycles as an Arcane Mage, so you'll do your big burn, then 45 seconds later you'll do your mini burn, and then 45 seconds later you'll do your big burn again. Timings aren't exact, you'll end up delaying for a second or two because of fight mechanics or spells, and note that Shifting Power will slightly change these timers a little bit. And if you're ever playing with Arcane Harmony, most of the time you should just treat it as a passive damage increase to Arcane Barrage. So you enter the burn phase whenever Evocation, Radiant Spark, Arcane Surge, and Touch the Magi are all off cooldown. You start the ramp by casting Evocation to get the Siphon Storm buff. You then cast Arcane Orb and Blast until you're at 4 Arcane Charges. Your Radiant Spark, Nether Tempest, Arcane Surge, use your Mana Gem, Trinkets, and Racials. Arcane Barrage, and while it's in the air, Touch of the Magi, and then Arcane Blast 3 times to consume Radiant Spark. We want to cast Nether Tempest at 4 charges before Surge, as the primary use of Nether Tempest is to trigger Arcane Echo during Touch of the Magi. And Touch of the Magi is off the global cooldown, so by casting Touch of the Magi immediately after Arcane Barrage, we immediately get our Arcane Charges back, and the Arcane Barrage we cast will land during Touch of the Magi because of the spell's travel time. For the remainder of Touch of the Magi, you just follow a simple priority. You cast Arcane Blast with Nether Precision, Arcane Missiles with Clear Casting, and then fall back to Arcane Blast if you've neither proc. With Nether Precision, you don't want to full channel Arcane Missiles. As soon as the global cooldown allows you, you want to cancel and cast Arcane Blast. You don't need to worry about manually cancelling it. If you just spam your Arcane Blast key, it'll cancel and cast Arcane Blast as soon as the global cooldown is over. So there's 2 ways to handle Rune of Power. The first is to desync it from your mini burn, which is what I just showed in the example there. Whenever you're desyncing, you cast Rune of Power immediately after the Arcane Surge burn to take advantage of Siphon Storm and Arcane Overload, and then you cast it again on cooldown in between the mini burn and the Arcane Surge burn. The second way of using Rune of Power is to sync it with your mini burn. This does less damage overall, its only advantage is if it lines up better with the fight mechanics, and when you're syncing with the mini burn, you can cast Rune of Power prior to your Arcane Surge burn, and then you cast it again with your mini burn. The mini burn hasn't changed from last season. You enter the mini burn whenever you have Radiant Spark and Touch of the Magi, and if you're sinking, also Rune of Power. So to ramp into the mini burn, cast Rune of Power if it's up, Radiant Spark, Arcane Blast 4 times, Nether Tempest because of the Touch of the Magi interaction, and then cast Arcane Blast and Spell Q and Arcane Barrage into Touch of the Magi on the end of it. Showing a quick example. The Touch of the Magi here, it's the same as the big burn. During the conserve phase, when everything's on cooldown, you just want to efficiently spend mana while ensuring you have enough mana for the next burn phase or mini burn phase. So your priority is to cast Arcane Orb with less than 2 Arcane charges, cast Shifting Power after Siphon Storm and your 4-set buff run out, cast Arcane Missiles to stop overcapping on clear casting, cast Arcane Blast if you have a Nether Precision proc and you do want to interrupt Arcane Missiles the same way you did during the burn to cast these, cast Arcane Missiles if you have clear casting, cast Arcane Barrage to clear your Arcane charges, and then just fill with Arcane Blast. So in order to manage your mana, you may want to burn mana aggressively in certain situations or conserve mana in other situations. So Arcane Missiles doesn't scale with the number of Arcane charges you have, however, because clear casting converts into Nether Precision and Arcane Blast does scale with the Arcane charges, your clear casting procs indirectly scale with Arcane charges. So if you want to burn mana and aggressively spend your mana, you want to spend as many procs as possible at 4 Arcane charges. This means that you only spend clear casting procs if you're at 3 until you get up to 4 Arcane charges, then spend each of your clear casting and the 2 Nether Precisions, and then cast Arcane Barrage to reset your charges. If you want to conserve mana, you want to spend procs as they come without worrying about how many charges you're at, and then if you do reach 4 Arcane charges while spending your procs, just cast Arcane Barrage to reset your charges. And in addition, you can also not cancel Arcane Missiles casts for Nether Precision if you want to be a bit more mana efficient. The best times that you want to aggressively burn are immediately after your Arcane Surge burn because you have Siphon Storm and the 4-set buff, or immediately before the Arcane Surge burn because you're going to cast Evocation and get all your mana back anyway. So this is the AoE Arcane Surge. So you start off, you Radiant Spark, then you Arcane Orb, Arcane Surge, Nether Tempest after Arcane Surge because you want higher uptime on Nether Tempest during Touch of the Magi on AoE. You barrage into Touch of the Magi using the same trick where you touch with the barrage in the air. You cast an Arcane Blast. The reason you do this and not an explosion is because of Harmonic Echo. And then you finish off with another Arcane Barrage. During Touch of the Magi on AoE, your number 1 priority is to cast Arcane Missiles with clear casting. This is because Arcane Missiles triggers Arcane Echo. I'm going to cast Arcane Orb if you have less than 4 Arcane charges, Barrage with 4 charges, and if you can't do any of the above, you just fill with Arcane Explosion. And then after your burn is done on AoE, you can just cast Shifting Power. Here is an AoE example. Okay, so the mini burn on AoE is quite similar to the Arcane Surge burn. The main differences are you obviously want to cast a Rune of Power first because you're not going to get one from Arcane Surge, and then you just replace the Arcane Surge cast with an Arcane Blast cast, but you move that cast inside Touch of the Magi so that it does more damage. So you'll go Rune of Power, Radiant Spark, Arcane Orb, Nether Tempest, Barrage, Touch of the Magi with the Barrage in the air, Blast twice, and then Barrage again. The AoE filler phase is quite simple. You want to cast as many barrages at 4 charges as possible. So your priority is to cast Arcane Orb with less than 4 charges, cast Shifting Power, Maintain Nether Tempest if you're at 4 charges. Cast Arcane Missiles with clear casting only if you have Arcane Harmony. Cast Barrage at 4 charges, and then cast Explosion. There's no concept of mana management on AoE. You will never run out of mana with how much you cast Arcane Barrage in the time it takes Evocation to come off cooldown. Okay, for stats and gearing, you generally, for the most part, prioritize item level and intellect. Your next 2 best stats for secondaries are crit and mastery, and haste and verse are quite close, with verse usually being a bit better on single target and haste being a bit better on AoE. As for trinkets, Iridius Fragment from Halls of Infusion is your best trinket, and your best passive trinket is Vessel of Searing Shadow from the raid. As for crafting, I recommend you craft weapon first, regardless of how powerful embellishments are. Weapon is the best statted piece, and it's a very high impact slot. If you're using Onyx Amulet, it's pretty good, but it might lose to high item level rings. You need to sim yourself. If you're going to play it on single target, you always use Twilight and Bloodstone, and then you use Freezing Ice Stone on single target, and you swap that out for Storm Infused Stone if there is any cleave or AoE. Alright, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please check out other videos on my channel. If you want to see me play, I do stream on Twitch, where I will stream all of our raid progress and potentially M+ title push. But anyway, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.